Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. I'm Gino Buccola alongside Mailloux with producer Bobby helping us out for a race preview of some Grade 1 action out at Del Mar this weekend. We're going to take a look at race 10 on Saturday. This is the Grade 1 Clement L Hirsch. And Ashley, I thought it was a really interesting group lining up because obviously you could start with Kopion, who's been so impressive, but she's done a lot of her best work sprinting. You have Seismic Beauty, who's been really good recently for Baffert. Kind of a need the lead horse, though. And it seems like you have three Bafferts in here who all sort of want to be forwardly placed. It's so tricky to handicap a race like this with the multiple Baffert horses when they all have speed.
They all have speed, and I think they all have races that you can go to at some point in time and really love them, right? I think
Yeah.
more recently would be Seismic Beauty and Reishi, but you bring up a great point here about Kopion, who I think a lot of us have become a big fan of, but it is the distance. The distance is going to be the question. Maybe this is the equalizer in some sense. The fact that you look at her efforts at a mile and a 16th and a mile, they've both been losses, one behind Kinza and one behind here, and Nothing Like You, who has to face again.
And I'm a little curious as we take a look at the pace projector for Timeform US, where Kopian will be stretching out. I'd imagine she's going to be pretty close to it. I don't think she's going to want to come from way, way out of it, but does she want to get caught up battling with Seismic Beauty or some of the other Baffert runners up front? So I am a little curious to how this pace will shape up because a lot of these horses could be jockeying for position early on.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting race because I don't know how they're all going to pan out here. I mean, I somewhat agree with this. I'm not necessarily convinced, though, that this is the way it has to kind of fall. I mean, Royal Spa, we've seen most recently 3 starts back, can be 4, depending what the pace is. Last time out, at least they went a little bit quicker, right, than the race over the off going at Laurel. I do think Seismic Beauty sort of has to go
Great.
just with the draw and based on what we've seen in the last two. But Ricci doesn't want to necessarily be far off of it, even in the races where she quote unquote stopped. She's been what, 1 or 2 lengths off the pace. So this could be an interesting race in terms of the pace dynamics.
Let's meet the field here for the Grade 1. Clement L. Hirsch going to go as race number 10 on Saturday at Del Mar. We start things out with the Grade 2 winner, Seismic Beauty. She's coming off a monster victory here, Ashley, in the Santa Margarita. When she clears the field, she's 3 for 3. She's undefeated. She just doesn't get beat. It's when she's not able to get out in front of horses that we've seen her lose a couple different times. She has her stablemate, though, and Kopian, maybe a couple others to deal with early on, but I think you're right with the inside draw and how good she's been in the last two with 104 Buyer speed figure winning. It feels like it's got to be pedal to the metal for her.
Yeah, I think she has to go. If she doesn't go because of a bad break, I don't think it's a deal breaker from her. I just think when you have the inside draw based on what you've seen in the last two, why wouldn't you go? She can go really quick, even around 2 turns when we see some of the half-mile splits in these races. And to get a 95 and 104 Buyer speed figure stands out. Splendora, the runner-up last time out, was well behind her. Somewhat flatters her that she came back to win at Del Mar. It wasn't a stake or anything. She was expected to win, heavily favored in there, and was able to do it. But I just like her progression, Gino. I think she's gotten
Yeah.
better, and I don't mind the time off. It's not like it's a crazy amount of time off. It's what, around 2 months. So that to me is not a cause for concern.
Next up is Royal Spa. She ships in from Churchill Downs. And Ashley, she's really stepped her game up about 4 races ago. You could just see it in the Buyer speed figures. This is a filly who's now a mare, and she had always had ability earlier on in her career, but she just couldn't really put it all together. A lot of late running minor awards. And then you see 4 consecutive races where she's had 90 plus Buyer speed figures. She wins the Grade 3 Shawnee 2 starts back coming from off the pace. And we've seen her kind of forward in a few of these races, but actually, I don't think she's going to be on the lead on Saturday. I actually think she's going to take more of a tracking trip against some of these fillies and mares who are a little bit faster than her early on. I kind of like the versatility of her, and I think it's a really smart move for Brissett to come and just take a shot over the track that you know the Breeders' Cup Distaff is going to be run at and just kind of see where she stacks up.
Yeah, and she's, gone out west in the past. It's been a while though, right? And I think, it's a positive sign that they say, hey, we're going to ship her. We're going to send her to Del Mar. You can already see she has a drill in the mornings over the track because they probably knew this wasn't going to be an easy spot, right? Some of those races I have been, quote unquote, softer, right? The races at Laurel, just kind of in terms of who
Yep.
they attracted, but she ran very well there. It gave them some confidence to go to Churchill, got the win in the Grade 3, second behind Torpedo Anna, and you bring up a great point because I'm torn. I think she's going to stalk. She can close from off of it. You're probably right. She probably isn't on the lead the more I look at her. because I think last time out just came to tactics, right? You're
Yeah.
tackling Torpedo Anna. You're trying to kind of put some pressure and switch things up early, and you come up second best, but I don't think she embarrassed herself.
And she was down on the inside. So I think they really wanted to
Mhm.
kind of hold that position down there. We'll see where she ends up early in this race. Mahina has been a really solid turf runner, but she's 0 for her last 6 recently on the grass. She's multiple graded stakes placed in that stretch, but just 3 career starts on dirt. They were a few years ago when she was sprinting on the dirt, even before she broke her maiden. So she's going to have to improve off of her turf form to compete with this, even when she's been good recently on the grass. So I kind of have some questions about her, Ashley.
Me too, especially with the dirt races being at a different point in her career. Obviously, she's older. They have kept her on the turf through and through. And testament to her and her training, right? She really hasn't had a break in quite some time, and she just kind of holds up and runs her races. I agree, though. I think it's kind of a little odd to see her back on the dirt. You look at the family. I mean, she did have a sibling that was the same sort of horse, ran fine on the dirt, but just a better horse on the grass. And I think that's the case with Mahina.
Nothing Like You is a multiple graded stakes winner, and she's won 4 times. And of those 4 wins, 3 of them have been monster victories where she's absolutely crushed the field. But then in her other races, when she doesn't win, she's not even really close. Like, she doesn't run winning races in those efforts. She's beaten by 14 lengths, 5 lengths, 9 3/4 in her last few when she's not been winning. She can sit off the pace a little bit. She's proven at Del Mar. I really didn't know what to do with her in this spot. I didn't like her as much as the other Bafferts. I'm not sure she's quite on the level of some of the others in here right now.
Yeah, it's interesting to see her show up in here when her stablemates have a little bit of a different tale in terms of their recent outings, right? 2-year-old season late in that campaign, and even sort of, 3-year-old season. She's had some big efforts, especially when she was able to win the Santa Anita Oaks. Just a really big performance. I know it was a 5-horse field, but the way she did it, career best effort. I don't know what to make out of her since then, right? You bring up a great point. She's running a race, but she's being well defeated in each and every start. So that's a tough sell. I will say you'll get price on her. And if you want to kind of maybe, look at her a little bit longer, she does like Delmar.
Yeah. And she could get a trip if she's sitting maybe third, just a couple lengths off. We've seen her sit off and pass horses. Reishi was a horse who came to the US. I was expecting a lot of her. Probably a little bit disappointing in her first US start, but when you look at the overall body of work right now, Ashley, it's kind of tough to knock her because she's shown improvement in basically each of her races in the US. She just won the Grade 2 Santa Maria, was a small field. She was a heavy favorite that day. So overall, I think it's been pretty solid now when you see those string of 5 races. I'm just concerned about the trip she's going to get in here because she's been the best when she's on the lead.
Yeah, and I will say at least she's gone decent clips in those races, and kind of looking at her in her most recent performance. I mean, she draws clear here, and she still went 46 and 3 to the half, going a mile and a 16th. So I'm impressed with that. Visually, she is just dominant here, and you see that common name again, Splendora. I do think she's a case, Gino, of a horse that they tried to sprint, they've stretched out, and that's been sort of the winning move. I think that attributes a lot to her recent success, and you kind of saw that before when she was racing in Chile, right? She was having performances early on, short distances, and she got a little bit better when she went long distances, a mile and an eighth, a mile and a quarter. So I'm not worried about the distance. You bring up a valid point about maybe being pressured early, but another one that's trending in the right direction.
We move to Little Hidden Port. This one is a multiple group stakes winner in Argentina. She has some real ability. She's been in the exacta now in 8 straight races. We just haven't seen her race since December. So that's my biggest concern. John Sadler can absolutely do a great job with horses just like this. New acquisitions, get them ready. I generally want to give them like a race or two before I will back them with the gambling money in a spot like this. So I'm expecting to see and hoping to see like a nice effort from her that could set her up for something later in the meet or something at Santa Anita.
Yeah, it's just a tough read, right? There's not much to go by. And I think when you look at these horses, you kind of have to do your homework. And there just wasn't enough for me to make a really
No,
informed opinion on her, especially in a
it's
race
true.
like this, right? We talked about the barn being fine with these imports, right? And that's the case. And I do think we've seen that a little bit more in the last probably 4 or 5 years with this outfit, right? Of kind of importing them from South America. I just think this is a tough spot. I understand why you go for it, and she has a resume that makes her a big rival down there, but she's still going to need to step up stateside.
We round things out with Kopion. She was honestly just second best in the Great Lady M at Los Alamitos. She lost to a pretty nice horse that day, though, Ashley, who likes that track and is really good when she can get out front and cruise. But all of Kopion's wins have been sprinting. Multiple grade one winner, expecting her to be a little bit closer from the outside. She just has to answer the bell here. She has not proven yet that she really wants to go long.
She hasn't. That's probably the big knock on her. I think when you look at the Great Lady M last time out, Sweet Azteca just broke on top, very sharp from the gate. Even though that one drifted out, was ready to roll off the layoff, got 102 buyer speed figure. You said it. Kopion was second best. I have reservations now about her stretching out. I think she can get the distance, but again, this is a field that it's a tough one to have to answer that test.
Yeah, it's a group that is proven and some solid competitors. You have 3 or 4 other nice horses. As we move to selections, Ashley, I thought that both Seismic Beauty and Kopion, they're kind of the horses to beat. I'm looking to get a little bit of value on the win end with Royal Spa, so I will stack them up 2-7-1-5. You're going to go 1-7-5-2. Talk to us a little bit about your picks.
I think we have the same thought process. We're trying to beat Kopion. We think the distance might be what kind of is what gets her beat in this spot. I think she's extremely talented. I'm just wondering if she's more of a sprinter, whether that's at 6.5 or 7 furlongs. But Seismic Beauty, in terms of recent form, very impressed with the times of those races, how she's done it. She might get pace pressure in here, though. Reishi could be involved. It's going to be interesting to see if stablemates duel it out on the front end. But I just like the way that she's trending.
Feels like a race you can make a case for at least 3 or 4 Saturday, the grade one Clement L. Hirsch at Del Mar. Good luck.